Okay, let us begin. Okay, so this is a paper on research design. So, in the last classes, we have discussed about what is kind of research, how anthropology grew as a subject, what are the subdisciplines of anthropology, how research tradition has started in anthropology in comparison to other social sciences. In the beginning, how people were termed as armchair anthropologists who did not go to the field to carry out anthropological fieldwork, but they were relying on secondary sources by observations or writings by the travelogues, priests, and administrators. But later on, they developed interest in going to the field, working among the people, staying there, learning the language, collecting data, analyzing, and writing. But what they were doing, they were trying to understand the whole social and cultural life of the people that they were interested in. And it was generally called as a holistic understanding or understanding of the society in totality. And that time, holism was followed in true spirit. But later on, we have found that, of course, people are interested in the community in totality, but and the way research is done in anthropology has also gradually changed from understanding a given society and writing about all different aspects of their life. They have changed to focus on specific aspects, specific areas of research, not just studying everything. So people have specific focus area, and anthropology as a subject has also, from a very general way of looking at society to very diversified. So there are a number of sub-specialization that has developed within anthropology. So people have specific interest they have developed. So that is why, though in field science, anthropology has contributed a lot, both in theory, in developing methodological rigor, then tools and technology. Many other social scientists have borrowed those things from anthropological discipline. But anthropology has also taken many ideas, many tools and techniques from other sciences, other fields of social sciences. And in this paper or in this discussion today, we will be focusing on three areas. One is a review of literature and statement of research problem. What are they, and whether they are real important components of doing research. In the second unit, we will discuss theories involved in research design or research study in anthropology. And what is a theory, and theory, how it is followed in research, and how research result can also give rise to theories. So these are the things we will be discussing. And lastly, we will also decide or discuss what is a research design, how to design a good research proposal or research plan before you carry out a research. Since anthropology and anthropological inquiry has become very diversified. So let us begin with the review of literature and statement of research problem. So what is, let me tell you in general, in a very lucid manner, then we go to the technical part of it. I think this I gave a very general idea. It's a glimpse of what exactly the research pathway is. Research pathway means how you conceptualize a problem, then how you move on to write a report at the end. So, conceptualizing a problem and writing a report and submitting a dissertation, there is a long way to go, and there are number of things that you need to do. One of the first things that one has to do once you have conceptualized a problem is, or a research topic you have decided, then you go to find out whether your problem has any resonance, or does it make any sense with respect to what others have done elsewhere. If you want to study a particular problem, for example, if you want to study the dropout rates in a village in Sambalpur, then before you start the problem, the research work, you need to know whether dropout as a problem any other person has done in Sambalpur, outside Sambalpur, other district of Odisha, other states of India, outside India. So you have to search for materials. They are all secondary materials, because what you would collect to solve the question, to address the issues as a research problem, that would be your primary. You go to Sambalpur, go to the selected village, design a study where what kind of question you would want, ask who are the people that you are going to ask these questions, how much of it will be covered by schedule or interview schedule, how many of it will be done by questionnaire by sending by post, how many interviews you will take, who are the stakeholders that you take the uh, interview, like who are the teachers, who are the dropout students, who are the continuing students, what is their parents, then school authorities, then people in the government, so many things. But before you do that, then you have to also explain why you have chosen Sambalpur, the district, why there are other 29 districts, why you have not chosen that, why that particular village, why not other. So a lot of questions you need to answer, because you want to make it more scientific, more methodological. It's not that you can just choose any village or any district. There should be a scientific basis. For example, if you want to select Sambalpur, that should be based on some reasoning. What is that? Maybe you can, from the state government's data, from census data, you can say that, okay, um, literacy rate in Odisha is so this and this. There are 30 districts, out of which Sambalpur has either high or low or medium range literacy rate. But within Sambalpur, this is a block, or this is a Gram Panchayat where the literacy rate is has changed in the last 10 years, from maybe from 55% to 75%. Suppose 20% increase in literacy rate. And if you look at the female literacy, it has jumped from 45 to 65 within that. So that makes it interesting. Why? What has been the influencing factor that made this sudden jump of 20% increase in literacy rate? So you want to find out how much of it is because of the agency of the people. Agency is a conceptual thing. Agency means how much people's initiative has brought about these changes, or how much the state's developmental programs with respect to Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan or specific intervention by NGOs, by local community or teachers who have played important role in dropout or increase in literacy rate. And if two issues, suppose dropout rate has decreased from maybe 20% to just 5%, 15% reduction. Literacy rate has gone up, especially for female, from 45 to 65, or for male 55 to 75, something like that. So then you have to justify why you have selected uh, Sambalpur out of 29. You may have your personal interest, you belong to that particular district, you want to see, but in research, your personal biases should not be seen. in your writing and in your design. You have to give academic or concrete reason why you have selected. Then why that particular village. So this kind of things would come. So once you have done that, then you have to see in what others have done. That is called a review of literature. Review of literature, if you decode it, the meaning, you have to review the literatures or writings available in that particular area. And there are two objectives of doing review of literature. One is review is done to understand what others have done, how much they have written, what are the angles they have covered, what are the perspectives they looked at, what are the findings they have, and what are the gaps. One is finding what has been done, and also to find out what has not been done. In other words, it is called finding the gap. In review of literature, the first objective is to know what has been done. For that, you have to do a review. So, how do you do the review? What it should contain? The review should contain all information that is available that deals with dropout or increase in literacy. Whatever is your objective. Suppose somebody is interested in something else, so you have to find out that issue, how it has been discussed or written by people mainly in research journals. Journals are also of different type that we'll discuss later on. Uh, so you have to find out the research journals. Then also in reports of the government of different agencies such as NGOs or international agencies, state agencies, and government departments. Then there are archival reports, there are newspaper items, there are occasional papers written by experts. So you have to collect all the information available relating to that particular topic. Then you have to analyze it based on concepts or themes. Concept means there are a number of conceptual framework based on which this article must have been written. One is by taking, suppose, a lot of theories how social change happen. Somebody would talk about how globalization as a process, globalization as a framework. They would look how processes of globalization has impact on increasing education. Someone would say intervention as a concept. How intervention means action by the state has also impacted in increase in literacy or fall down in dropout rates. Somebody would also look at agency as a concept. So, how people's own volition, people's own attempt has also brought about social change in education. So, this is a conceptual model. You take the concept as a theme and try to look at how people have interpreted their data in their respective works. And second one is conceptual, second is thematic. So you can take a theme, different themes in their writing, and divide and review it. When you review, always it is good in social science to review, not to say the whole process as a negative or positive. You can just focus on, oh, this has been very very bad, or this has been very very good, the government has done excellent work in 10 years. No, you have to take both positive and the negative or challenges, and also show the gray areas, not very positive, not very negative, but all different ideas, different themes that has been covered in the writings of others. You have to review. So you search existing literature that is available, and nowadays you are also very very fortunate that you have Google, and then within Google you have Google Scholar. uh, do you know what is Google Scholar? May I know from any participant if you know? I see the names of. Are you all listening? Arpita, Abhishek, Revati,
Yes,
Jiva.
sir.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes,
Can
sir.
anyone tell me what
Yes,
is
sir.
Google Scholar? If you know, it's
I
Don't know,
have
okay.
no
sir.
If you don't
idea.
know, it's okay. Huh?
No idea.
Do you know? No idea. Okay.
No, sir.
Okay. You must be knowing Google Image. You see photographs, pictures. No? Okay. So Google also has, so now after the class, please go and search Google Scholar site. Okay, like Google, you say Google Scholar. Go to the Scholar. Scholar is something which publishes, or this is a platform where scholarly articles are there. If you want to research on education or health or any other topic, or gender issues. So you go to Google Scholar, type what you want, and it will throw you, it will give you a list of maybe hundreds of articles, research articles written after they have conducted their research. What we are discussing how to do research. But when people design a research study, conduct fieldwork, do their research, analyze it, write a report. After that, they write a report, they publish it in different journals. There are peer-reviewed journals, there are reputed journals, which are peer-reviewed means reviewed by people who are expert in the field. So you can read those articles, and you are fortunate that you have Google Scholar as a platform that provides sitting at home you can get almost all the literature. Of course, old literatures that had not been properly documented and available in the website, you may not get it. You have to physically go to those libraries, those archives, or places to collect. Otherwise, most of the things you get in Google Scholar. So you search the existing literature, and the reason for writing review of literature is because you want to know what has been done in the area and what is the gap. And then it would be like a statement of research problem. So you have to revise your research theme problem based on, because as an independent researcher, as a single person, you are writing your master's dissertation or MPhil dissertation or PhD thesis. It is a single person you will be doing it. So if you take too many questions, suppose if you, let us take education as an example throughout this discussion. Suppose you want to take education, how the education policy of the state has changed, how intervention strategies like midday meal, support system to students like bicycle, dress, study materials, and other things have also impacted in attendance of the school. And if you want to say gender angle, like whether the number of girls students or children have increased over the years, why it has increased, how it has increased. If you take so many questions, so it will be difficult to do a good study. And if you want to do a comparative account, suppose if you want to the same Sambalpur district, but if you want to see whether dropout rates among the scheduled tribe, the scheduled caste, and the general population, who has fared well in last 10 years. So it will be too much as a researcher uh, to cover. Because if you want to say about Sambalpur as a state, sorry, as a district, again, district is in anthropological sense, district would be a large geographical area. People would be interested in which subdivision of Sambalpur, which blocks of Sambalpur, which panchayat, and if you want to have a representative Sambal that would really tell about Sambalpur, then you have to go for a statistical design. In your design, you have to make it more representative. So that is why you take a small area, then the research problem, like areas that you would look into. Areas means not geographical area, but research area. Suppose if you want to take gender issue, just take gender issue. If you want to take intervention strategies, impact of intervention strategies, you take that. Or if you want to say dropout, so be focused on your research. Then you define your research problem, because even a small research problem can have number of research questions within it. So you have to be very, very sure about those questions. and what are the different components in the research problem. And these are the things that we shall discuss, and techniques involved in defining research problems, conditions conducive for formulation of research problem, and operationalizing those concepts. So this is what we shall discuss. So you can see your book. Like after discussing this, you will come to know that literature provides help in the form of studies that are closely related and comparable to the study being conducted. As I said in the general introduction, the objective of doing a review is to understand what has been done by others in a closely related and comparable study. If you are doing for Sambalpur, then if suppose in the Cuttack district, same study has been done, so you have to compare between Cuttack and Sambalpur. Then we have to get the result from Cuttack. And if similar study has been done in West Bengal, in Kerala, in Bihar, in Chhattisgarh, then you have to also look into those experiences and the findings of that research. It means that. And before you design, before you finalize your research questions, questions are sometimes called as research problem. Research problem and research questions are different, but they can be used interchangeably. Then you have to find out in the 5 or 6 studies that has been done before Sambalpur, then what are the gaps? Means what those 5 6 studies have ignored. They have not taken into account. For example, they have taken into account the gender roles and everything that we discussed, but they have not taken into account, suppose, adult education. Suppose somebody did not study after fifth, got married and had a family for 10 years, but after that, she has done restudy. So you are interested in knowing because the age at marriage in Sambalpur in last 10 years was very low. I'm just saying hypothetical. These are all theoretical discussion. So low, but later on with the policy of the government wanted to give importance to people who have uh, left or dropped out from the study, but they are interested after 10 years to study. Other studies have not taken into account this, but your study is unique that you are taking this into account because this is a specific practice in this area. So this will be the novelty or newness in your study. Then learn that it relates the study to the larger ongoing dialogue in literature about topic. And you should also, your study design, your review should also be made or prepared and developed on the basis of the ongoing dialogue in the literature about the topic. You should not be choosing something which is very, very old fashioned. You should choose a topic which is contemporary, which is new, which is interesting, and it goes very well with the important dialogues or ongoing dialogues that is happening in the topic. And also, it should be provided with an understanding about framework of establishing important of the study as well as benchmark for comparing the result with other studies. And you, in your study design, in your tool, you should you should also look at how others have taken. Let me give you a small example. Suppose in your study you want to see, uh, because if you want to see up to say senior secondary, suppose high school or plus two, then you divide from class 1 to class 5, plus 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 10, 11, 12. So these are the 4 groups that you would like. So 1 to 3, 4, 5, lower primary, upper primary, secondary, uh, and then higher secondary. Suppose you want to divide into this. You should be very careful because after your study is finished, you would like to compare it with others, other district, other states, and other places. So all these categories, all these frameworks that you take in your study plan should be standardized. Suppose if you take class 1 to 3 as one category, 4 and 5 as upper primary as another, middle school like 6, 7, 8, then 9, 10, secondary, higher secondary. 11. So your this classification, this category should be a standard so that you can compare. If others have taken 1 to 4 as a category, you don't find it because 4 becomes overlapping, neither with primary nor with upper primary. So this is why you should also compare with other benchmarks and other standardized categories. This is just example for age. So other things will also be there. Suppose the classification of literates. What do we do? We do illiterate or non-literate, those who have not studied. Then you take this category: primary, upper primary, high school, graduates, postgraduates, technical. All that. So your studies should also be based on the standard practice in the field. This is what I want to say. And learn in totality the introduction to literature review, step in conducting literature review, and reasons for writing the literature review. So you must be very, very clear. When you write a literature review, as I said, it should be based on concept, based on themes. So there are certain way how you should write a review of literature. When you write, you can divide into themes, and also sometimes people write in a spatial manner. Spatial, spatial. Spatial means space or area. When you give a comparative picture of review of literature, means whatever has been written about this issue or research problem, you go for global. So globally, what has happened with respect to increasing trend of education, especially primary and secondary education, what happened in Europe, or in America, or in Africa, if that is of interest to you. Then you also discuss in the second paragraph, in the second layer, you discuss what is happening nationally, internationally, then nationally, then regional in eastern part of India, and then local, what is happening in Sambalpur. So you cannot just say, you just say America, then come to Sambalpur, then go to Europe, then go to Kerala. No, not like that. So that should be coherence in writing and reviewing the findings of other studies. And then when you survey for literature, there are three things come to you. Normally two, but sometimes people say three. One is the sources. Where do you get the source? When I say you search Google, that is that is your second resource. So primary source of information, primary, secondary, and tertiary. So primary sources of information includes first-hand account of experiments or investigations. These are all done by, carried out by others. And original works, suppose letters, diaries, eyewitness accounts, poems, novels, autobiographies, these are all primary sources. And reports, proceedings of, suppose, Reserve Bank of India, of the Parliament, of court testimonies, so government department.
Sir, please allow me to speak something.
Yes, please.
Sir, ଏ ଯୋଉ କ୍ଲାସ୍ ହଉଛି ଏଇଟା ମାନେ ଏଇ ଲୋକେସନରେ ତ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ମିନ୍ସ ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱର ପାଇଁ ତ ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱର ଷ୍ଟଡି ସେଣ୍ଟରର
Yes, yes.
ଆଚ୍ଛା ସାର୍ ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ମୁଁ ତ ପୁରା ଏଇଟା ମୋର ଫାର୍ଷ୍ଟ କ୍ଲାସ୍
Acha.
ସାର୍ ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ମୁଁ OPSC ପାଇଁ ପଢୁଛି
Hmm.
ମୁଁ ଅପସନାଲ ନେଇଛି ଆନ୍ଥ୍ରୋପୋଲୋଜି
Hmm.
ତ ସାର୍ ମୋ ପାଖରେ ଏବେ ବି ଇଗ୍ନୋର ଆଉଥରେ ଏବେ ଆସିଛି ନା ନୋଟିଫିକେସନ
Hmm.
ଆଜ୍ଞା ତ ସେଇଟା ବି ମୁଁ ଭାବୁଥିଲି ମୁଁ ଆନ୍ଥ୍ରୋପୋଲୋଜିର କିଛିଟା ହିମାବିନ୍ଦୁ ମ୍ୟାମଙ୍କର କ୍ଲାସ୍ କିଛି କରିଥିଲି ଆନ୍ଥ୍ରୋପୋଲୋଜି ଯୋଉ OPSC ପାଇଁ
Hmm. କାର
ଯୋଉ
ଇନ୍ଦ୍ରାଣୀ
ଅପସନାଲ ପାଇଁ ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍
କାର କରିଥିଲେ କ୍ଲାସ୍?
ଯୋଉ ହିମାବିନ୍ଦୁ ମ୍ୟାମ
अच्छा ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନି ହଁ କୁହନ୍ତୁ
अच्छा से
actually
मतलब कि
I am not
आगे
from IGNO I am from Utkal University so they
ओके
have requested us to take few classes or few papers okay so in this period there are three teachers from Utkal University who will be taking classes. I am taking research methodology. Two of my other colleagues, Professor Devendra Vishwal, Professor Kanuchan Satpathy, they will be taking two other papers, one on biological anthropology, one on sociocultural anthropology. So, if you have any technical issue relating to course or syllabus, examination, and others, or joining a course or leaving a course, all these things you have to ask to people at the IGNO. For example, Dr. Panigrai, he is coordinating this program. He is the deputy director of IGNO. So, such questions you can ask them. To us, to me, you can only ask questions relating to this paper. What I have taught, if you have anything, any problem in understanding, so this you can ask.
सर एक्चुअली एंथ्रोपो
Hello, are you mute? I can't hear you. Priyanka Naik, yes. Please repeat your question. I can't hear you.
की ଟିକେ ସ୍କୋରିଂ ଲାଇକ୍ ମୁଁ ୟୁପିଏସସି ଦେବି ବୋଲି
हाँ
ଭାବିଛି
हाँ
ତ ସେ ସେଥିପାଇଁ ହ୍ୟାଲୋ ତ ସେଥିପାଇଁ ମୋତେ ଲାଗୁଛି କି ଆନ୍ଥ୍ରୋପୋଲୋଜିଟା ଟିକେ ବେଶୀ ସ୍କୋରିଂ ସବଜେକ୍ଟଟା ଆଉ ମୁଁ କିଛି କିଛି ପାର୍ଟ ତାର ପଢିଛି ତ ସାର୍ ଇଗ୍ନୋରେ ମାନେ ମୁଁ ଭାବିଲି କି ଇଗ୍ନୋର ମ୍ୟାଟେରିଆଲ୍ସ ଲାଗିବ ମୁଁ ବୁକ୍ସ ଗୁଡ଼ା ବି
नहीं
ଦେଖିଛି
एबे
ବଟ୍
तुम्हें
ମୋତେ
इग्नोर ये
ଏତେ
कोर्स
ସାଟିସ୍ଫାଏ
करछो तो
ଲାଗେ ଆଜ୍ଞା ଆଜ୍ଞା
हाँ
ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍
हाँ तो प्रॉब्लम कौन
ସାର୍ ମୁଁ କନଫ୍ୟୁଜ୍ ହେଇଯାଉଛି କି ଆନ୍ଥ୍ରୋପୋଲୋଜି ଆଉ ସାଇକୋଲୋଜି ଭିତରେ ମୁଁ ଟିକେ ଅପସନାଲ୍ ନେବା ପାଇଁ ଚୁଜ୍ କରିବା ପାଇଁ କନଫ୍ୟୁଜ୍ ହେଇଯାଉଛି ଆଉ
व्हाट इज योर
ବାକି ଏଇ
बैकग्राउंड
ଯୋଉ
ग्रेजुएशन कोथरे
ଗ୍ରାଜୁଏସନ୍ ସାର୍ ମୋର ଫିଜିକ୍ସରେ
अच्छा फिजिक्स रे तो डिफिकल्ट कहया ପାଇଁ it depends on your interest but definitely anthropology is a scoring subject and traditionally
ଆନ୍ଥ୍ରୋପୋଲୋଜି
हाँ
ସାର୍ ଆପଣ
engineer
ଉତ୍କଳ ୟୁନିଭର୍ସିଟିରେ ଆନ୍ଥ୍ରୋପୋଲୋଜି ହିଁ ପଢଉଛନ୍ତି କି ସାର୍ ତ ଆନ୍ଥ୍ରୋପୋଲୋଜି ନାହିଁ
कोठी नहीं
ମାନେ ଏ ଉତ୍କଳରେ ଅଛି କି ଆନ୍ଥ୍ରୋପୋଲୋଜି
हाँ डेफिनेटली अच्छी तुम यूपीएससी दो माने यू मस्ट नो कि कोठी कोठी एंथ्रोपोलॉजी अच्छी
ମୁଁ ଯେତିକି ଜାଣିଛି ଇଗ୍ନୋର
1998 रे एंथ्रोपोलॉजी इज old department in Utkal University 65 years old it is one of the
Yes, sir.
in the country हाँ
ଆଚ୍ଛା
Utkal University are best known for anthropology, sir.
Anthropology, this is the first department in the country to receive Center of Advanced Study. First one and stage one and stage two. But anyway, I think there are other departments which are also equally good or better. But anthropology is a frontline department in under Utkal University. But anyway, ସମସ୍ତେ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ଜାଣିବା ମାନେ not necessary that you know everything. But if you want to compare and say whether you take psychology, I'll just discuss 2 minutes. Huh? Otherwise, we have to finish the course. Psychology and anthropology, that would be your personal choice. But since you are from science background, and especially if you had biology, it will be little easier for you because this is a very anthropology compared to psychology would be easier for you people who have no background in anthropology or social sciences. Okay, because it will have a paper on biological anthropology, which is very close to the biology that you have studied at +2, and then or +3. But physics means you must not have studied that. Then there are certain things which is very close to sociology, like social and cultural anthropology. There are other things, for example, this research methodology, which is also very common thing that you can easily grasp. And as far as, but UPSC now you have only one subject.
यस सर
So you're not very confident with physics. But anyway, you go through the syllabus of both the subjects, give a primary reading on both. Then you, if you feel good, it's not about understanding, it's also representation. How much you can represent in your examination answer script. So that also matters. So take an informed decision It is not that I have said something, you follow. You go to the library, go through the syllabus, books, and study materials, and then take a call. But anthropology, I would personally say that anthropology would be interesting and easier for non social science students, means non-anthropology students at graduation level. And secondly, if you click and if you go to become administrator, so this subject, if you go through this subject, it will be very, very handy as an administrator. It will help you a lot because this is very close to human behavior, human feelings, understanding people. So that would be very handy if you become administrator. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, sir, what is the difference between MA and MSc in anthropology?
Okay.
Sir,
So now you people are going outside the syllabus. But anyway, this is Samya.
yes, sir.
Okay. MA and MSc, because anthropology is such a subject which encompasses both. I think you were not there in the first class also. Uh, both science and arts, because this is a social science. This also has biological science into it. So this is called biocultural discipline. Because if you think yourself, because anthropology is study of humans, you are a human, and you also have a biological. You are a biological being, and you are a social being. You are a biological being because you have a physical body that is biological processes, like you have cells, you have tissues, you have organs, you have a body, different body parts functioning. So that also has history, like it has evolutionary aspect, it also has variation as an aspect. Human societies vary. Similarly, you are also a social being. So there is societal evolution, societal variation, like your marriage patterns of your society that you belong to varies from XYZ community or society. So that is why, since it deals with humans, both biological and cultural aspect, so people from biology are interested in understanding human evolution, human variation, genetic disorders, evolutionary theories, human anatomy, forensic anthropology. So, physical anthropology is also very advanced. So, those who come with science background, especially BSc plus two science or BSc, and take anthropology, they get MSc degree. Those who come with arts background or social science background, done BA, they get MA degree. But in last 3 4 years, government has divided into things like MA in anthropology, MSc in anthropology. Those who have subjects like biology, like botany, zoology, biotechnology, chemistry, and geology, they can opt for MSc in anthropology because that has a lot of similarities, few papers. And all others who have studied in humanities and social sciences can go for MA. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? Okay. Okay, then we move on to what we were discussing about research methodology. So you have primary data. Primary means the studies that has been done by people. I think there are two ways of looking at it. One is primary data, one is secondary data. Then one is source, one is data, one is source. When data is concerned, the data or the information having meaning has been collected by you or any researcher is primary for him or her. Anything else that is collected by others is called secondary. But as far as source is concerned, one is primary source. Suppose somebody has written a dissertation or a thesis by working on a particular society, so that would be treated as primary source. Original works like letters, diaries, suppose Mahatma Gandhi's letters or diaries, or eyewitness accounts, poems, novels, autobiographies, not biographies but autobiographies, and reports, these will be primary source. Or if you go to parliament for parliament records, go to banks for their records, go to government departments for government's different reports. This will be treated as primary source. Secondary sources, information that are summarized of information gathered from primary sources. Because people have collected primary source, they have given their commentaries, they have analyzed and written something based on that. That would be secondary source. For example, encyclopedic articles, abstract guidebooks, other publication containing factual information, commentaries on some. So that would be secondary. And textbooks are usually examples of tertiary source of information, since these are generally compiled from secondary source. Because textbooks, there are in academics, there are two kinds of books. One is reference book, second is textbooks. Textbooks are like the books that you study in schools or colleges. They are not written by one person, but they are a compilation of different chapters on different themes compiled by a group of editorial or editorial board. They have compiled it. So that would be tertiary source. From where they have done, taken it, they have taken from secondary source. They have taken by an author's book or commentaries on that. But as far as data is concerned, there are primary data and secondary data. Primary data, when you go to Sambalpur to study, suppose Koya tribe, their educational status, then that would be treated as primary work done by you. As I said earlier in the general introduction, when you go for review of literature, there should be step one is one should begin by identifying keywords useful in locating materials in an academic library. The first thing, suppose you are interested in education, and within education, dropout being important term for you, and then rising literacy rate. Yes, these are the two areas that you are interested in, or gender as third. So in Google Scholar, being a good platform, electronic based platform, you just type these things. So you'll get a lot of reference of lot of articles. So that is one thing. And if you don't go and search Google Scholar, then you can go to library, ask the librarian. So these are the things I'm looking at. So he would look at the catalog that he has in the library, and he would find related books. So that is the first step. Second is, with these keywords in mind, the researcher should go to the library and begin searching the library catalog for holidays holdings like journals, books. Then researchers should try to locate journal articles and books because they are easy to locate and obtain. And using initial group of articles, he should try to identify. Then identify useful literature. Researchers should begin designing the literature map. I think let me make it more lively and more easy for you. When you collect all the literature available, both from primary, secondary, and tertiary. You sit down with all your data, both electronic data as well as physical hard copy, photocopied or Xerox copy. Then sit down, what are the different aspects of literature that people have covered? Which one is primary, which one secondary, which one tertiary, which one matches with your kind of community or area that you are studying. So you have to sort it out, I think, theme wise. And in library, there are generally group of online indexes. So I don't know whether you know it. Uh, there are there are books with hard copy books and soft copy. You can go there. For example, sociological abstract, social science index, social science citation index. These are the books that are available on in science, maybe weekly or monthly, and in social science monthly or year wise. So you if you go to for example, if you want to study on what are the very upcoming or trendy area of research in anthropology, so there is an international journal called Annual Review of Anthropology. So Annual Review of Anthropology is a good journal, internationally recognized journal, that covers all the topics which are very contemporary as well as very traditional. So if you go through that journal and the content of that journal, you come to know very, very interesting areas of research. So that may help you to frame your research question. Okay, and they cover almost all branches and sub branches of anthropology. Then anthropological index, abstracts in anthropology. Abstracts in anthropology means all the important works done in anthropology all over the world. So they will have a very abstract, maybe 10 lines about things. So if you go through that, you come to know many interesting areas, interesting research questions, and how research questions.
Sir, excuse me, sir. One
Yeah,
question.
please.
Sir, what is the source you have mentioned just now, that where to we go and find that abstracts and all?
Yeah, if you do you have the book with you?
Sir, no, sir, I don't have
Okay, so
actually. I having.
you just because I'm telling something from the book as well. I'm
Okay,
generally 80% I'm telling from our work or experience for the it covers, but 20-30% from the book. Okay, so page
okay,
nine
sir.
of block three. Okay, go through
Okay,
page nine. So it gives a list of sources. These are the sources which
okay,
would tell you, yeah, about recent topics in the work.
okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So and then what should you look for in those things? You should look for newness, what is called novelty or newness, and what is already known about the area, what concepts and theories are relevant to this area. All these things, if you go through the abstract of 100 articles or works, then that would help you and it will click to your mind, okay, in my area, this can be an interesting area. And what research methods and research strategies have been employed, because they would also give. So every abstract would also give what is the research problem, what is the specific background, what is methods and tools used, and what is the important findings from the study. So that would help you. Are there any significant controversies in that field? Any inconsistency in the finding related to the area? Because as I said in the beginning, review of literature is for two purposes. It is done for two purposes. One, to find out what has been done, what we know, what people have carried out. Second is finding the gaps. What people have ignored, they have not found. How do you do that? You cannot, because people's imagination, one individual's imagination will be very, very limited. If you go to library, go through these literatures, go through these indexes, you will come to know what people world over are working on this specific area. Suppose if education is the area, in education, what people are doing. If health is an area, in health, what people are doing. So this is the purpose. And so it will not only tell about what people have done, that will also give you some glimpses about what are the methods available, what are the new tools developed in the field, what are the framework people have used, analytical framework, what are the conceptual models or theories that have been argued in this area. So everything you would come to know. And once you review it, if you review 100 works by others, so your knowledge will get enriched, your minds will get opened, and you will see your already decided problem in a very different way. You'll get clues to look at things. So it is always better to spend more time, because we are discussing before you uh, carry out your research plan, what you should follow. The first step is identify a problem, then do the review of literature around that problem. And then the next step would be, first and foremost step happens to the selection and proper definition of a research problem. We talk of a research problem or hypothesis in case of descriptive or hypothesis testing research studies. So there are different kinds of studies. One is descriptive study. You go and describe what is happening in the society that you are studying. Another is hypothesis testing, like you have a lot of assumptions, you go and test it. So what is that assumption? Assumption is, suppose Let me give you a small example. Suppose hypothesis is you make a lot of assumptions before you go and study. Suppose in a college or university setup, there are people who stay in hostel and who come from outside, or those who are day scholars and those who are hostelers. So you can go with hypothesis that hostelers, the boys students in a hostel smoke more cigarette than those who are day scholars, or they take more tea or coffee compared to day scholars. So this is the hypothesis. So you go and find out in a classroom setup whether that is true or not. So that is called hypothesis testing. Suppose in a classroom of 50, suppose 20 students come from outside, 30 are hostelers. So you take a sample from 30, you take 10, and from 20, you take 8 or 10, and ask them how many cigarette they play, why there is number is less or more. Some people will say that in hostel there is, I don't have my parents, there is nobody watching, so I do it. Somebody say in hostel, I start my study only after 10 in the night, so I wake up late in the evening, so that is why I need tea or coffee or cigarette. At home, I am under discipline of my parents, so I cannot take. So something like that. Or people will say, then hostel I get some money, pocket money from my parents, so I manage it, I get it. Or I am under influence of my friends. So there will be n number of reasons why people take it. At home, the reason can be vice versa. It can be more or less. We do not know. So you have to make an assumption, make an hypothesis that hostelers take average number of cigarette or coffee or tea cups are more compared to this. But you go to the field, take interviews of these 20 plus 10 students, and you will see that, okay, what I was thinking, what I was assuming comes out to be true. So you take the number, do the statistics, tell this. Or you may be surprised, oh, my hypothesis is nulled. Means hypothesis failed, because I thought hostelers should be taking more, but contrary to that, the people who are living with their parents or outside the hostel, they take more. The reason could be this. So this is called hypothesis testing based research. And what are the components in a research problem? So there must be an individual or a group or organization to whom the problem can be attributed. And the individual or organization, as the case may be, occupies an environment which is defined by values of the uncontrolled variables. So that means in your research problem, so it should be about a group, about individuals, about groups, about organizations, that certain things can be attributed. So, suppose, as I said, if you take a village, tribal village in Sambalpur, so that should be defined. And there must be at least two courses of action to be pursued. The course of action is defined by one or more values of the control variable. So there are other I think we'll discuss it later on. What is a variable? uh, what is dependent variable, what is independent variable. So these things also you need to keep in mind when you problematize something. Suppose, let me give small example in the field of education. Suppose if you want to know whether educational standard uh, of girl child has improved or not, and what is the contributing or dependent factor on that. Dependent factor would be state intervention. If or independent is state intervention, standard of education becomes dependent variable. Independent state intervention means, suppose midday meal in primary school has attracted more number of students to attend the school, not to drop out, not to leave the study. So your government intervention with respect to midday meal or supply of midday meal becomes independent variable. And dependent variable is attendance in the school. So similarly, you have to plan in such a way all the different aspects of your study should have defined variables, both independent and dependent. So your selection of units like study areas, districts, blocks, villages, hamlets, different kinds of groups based on caste groups, based on ethnic groups, based on linguistic group, religious group. All these criteria need to be taken into account because when you decide a topic, you have to think about all those things and their importance in the study design. And then selecting variable, as I said. So that needs to be also taken into account. Then selecting anticipated relationship of research. Like when you identify the units of analysis and variables in the problem selected for research, it is equally important to select the specific relationship which are believed to exist among phenomena. Suppose in education, if you really think about government program, there can be other independent variable. You have to identify who would be the independent variable, what would be the dependent variable. So if you can fix, and sometimes independent variable and dependent variable can change, but before you design, you should have fairly good idea about all these things. Then, as I said, stating hypothesis would also become an interesting area. So, in hypothesis, you may say that government's support system, PDS system, has contributed to decreasing dropout rates, or decreasing fertility rate, which number of births in a family has contributed to better attendance by girl child. Because in traditional societies, simple societies, if the parents have three, four, five children, the elder daughter would be sacrificed because she has to look after younger brothers and sisters, siblings. So that is why she drops out from the study. So all these factors need to be factored when you decide a topic. And then what are the techniques involved in defining a research problem? One is statement of the problem in generic term. And whatever topic you decide, for example, if I decide to understand the fertility behavior of the Munda tribal of Odisha, or I decide why young tribals migrate, suppose young tribal of any tribe, suppose Santal tribe, migrate for their livelihood. Suppose this is a problem, research problem. Then you have to be very careful in really having your problem very focused, and it's a doable research problem. You cannot take everything without giving a lot of attention to the problem. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble in executing the research program. So, suppose if you take migration into account, then you have to do a lot of background study and sharpen your research questions. If that is so, then you have to do a lot of background reading about the district, about the place, about the tribe, and say whether it is a general migration or it's a seasonal migration, it's a temporary migration, it's a permanent migration, and what exactly you want to look at. Because migration in general, so this is what I'm discussing under your technique involved in defining research problem. How to make research problem very pinpointed and very focused, not very generic kind of thing. First, you have to go with the generic problem. Generic problem is migration in this case, strained migration, because in tribal areas it's not like knowledge migrant that people go to work in software industry, or people go as a doctor or engineer or something. People go under duress, under distress, because there is a impact on their livelihood. So that is why they migrate. So this migration is very typical, very different from knowledge migrants. So your first problem may be study on migration, a pattern of migration among tribes. But which kind of migration? Who are going? Suppose in a typical case, in a tribal situation, in a stressed migration, mainly the male members go, the females do not go. But in contrary to that, in a general migration, whoever gets the fellowship or opportunity would go. But here, male members would go. They would go to a bigger city where there is a lot of opportunity, where there is opportunity for semi-skilled or unskilled worker. They would go. They would stay there for a generation or at least 5, 10 years. When they realize that they are self-sustained, there is a uh, additional income, they can survive, they can sustain, and they can bring their family, they would do that. So what I'm trying to emphasize is, when you have a generic problem as uh, migration, but then you have to have a nature of the problem. What is, if you have selected a tribal community and a tribal dominated district, so their typicality of the situation needs to be analyzed in the next stage. Then you do survey of literature, available literature, with respect to migration of tribal or marginalized groups, single family, unskilled worker, from small place to big place, and this is seasonal. So these things should be looked into. And then you need to discuss with experts in the field, with the teacher, with friends, with seniors, and also discuss with the writers that you read to sharpen it. And then you rephrase the research problem. So research problem, when you work for a thesis or a dissertation, so the title should not be very vague, should not be very general. It has to be specific. Suppose you say the dropout rates in Odisha, a study of Samakunta village. The other day I gave this example. Samakunta village of Mayurbhanj. So this will not be a good title, because by studying one village in Mayurbhanj district called Samakunta, you cannot talk about Odisha, because Odisha is a big area compared to Samakunta. Samakunta may not be a representative village of, because Odisha can be seen from uh, different geography like east, west, south, north. It can be seen as hilly areas, plain areas, coastal areas, or it can be seen as tribal, caste, urban. And Samakunta, being from a tribal dominated area, may not be representative of whole of area. So your title should be representative of the study as well, what you exactly you are doing. So you can say the impact of migration on social lives of people, a case study of Samakunda village of suppose X block of Mayurbhanj. So that would be more appropriate than saying about Odisha. So similarly, your study title or the research problem should be representative of what exactly you are going to do. And once you have identified the topic, done the review of literature, then aim and objectives of your study. Aim and objectives of the study are derived from the topic that you choose. This bigger question, because research problem is a bigger question, a generic question, relatively generic but specific question. But aim and objectives are exactly what you want to see. Suppose migration, seasonal migration is a topic for us. Within migration, then seasonal migration. Within normal society, it becomes Mayurbhanj society as a district. Then you should also have something like next step would be in the design, aim and objectives. Aim is to understand what are the pull and push factor that is responsible for migration of young males of Mayurbhanj. And how much second would be how much this push factor, because the factor that is pushing people to migrate, how much of this pushing factor is related to their economic strain. Or suppose in the case of tribal, their dependency on forest explains their livelihood pattern. But slowly, since government is controlling lot of forests and there is alternative mode of income available to people through different programs like MG Narega and others. So people are leaving their dependency on forest and coming to join the market economy. So that is why your objective should be very, very selective, very focused, more focused, so that you can find good answer to that. And what are the conditions conducive for formulation of research? I think you can go through the book, but let me explain a little bit also. The researcher must be well aware of the area in which he or she is going to research. You must have a fair idea of the geographical area that you are going to study and the research area. Geographical area here is Shamakunta in Mayurbhanj. Research area is migration. So you should have fair knowledge of migration as an issue and Mayurbhanj as an area. And yes, he should be well conversant with the different theories in the field. If it is a topic migration, then migration has also a lot of theories. So he should be aware of different theories. Let me give small example also. Suppose migration has, if you have studied, I do not know, in migration there are theories by suppose Malthusian theory, which says that subsistence or food production is inversely proportionate to, or sorry, directly proportionate to population increase. Subsistence increases in geometric ratio and population increases in arithmetic ratio. If subsistence increase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, population increases in 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, something like that. And there are other biological theory, social theory, transition theory. So your study should also be based on some theoretical model. That model explains the way societies change. If you are studying migration, so you must also get aware about different theories that has been discussed in the area of migration or demography. And then she should also have full knowledge of the finding of the studies of others. So that is review of literature that we discussed. When you decide a topic, you should also know what others have done in the similar area, in the migration, strain migration. And another is conducive force is the researcher should have a critical, curious, and imaginative frame of mind. And it is not that you select a topic, but you should be very imaginative. You should be very critical of the topic and the findings there. Sorry, just can you just give 30 seconds? I'll drink a glass of water and then come back.
All right, sir.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Then once Once you have factored all the conduciveness conditions for your research, you have seen that the a geographical area and the thematic or research area uh, that has been decided, or you have factored it, that it would really be helpful to you. Then the next would be operationalizing the concept, operationalizing the research problems. Selection of research problem is in no way easy in the case of individual research. While selecting a problem, some of the basic factors to be taken care of is researcher always have to see that the problem has a purpose, because you should be very very careful and very sure that what you are doing, the kind of research you are focusing, should have a purpose. You should ask yourself, why I have selected this topic, what is the importance of doing it. And then another factor which counts is in individual research. When you say individual research, means you are doing for a degree. You are doing for masters or MPhil or PhD or postdoc or DSc, some degree. And other than individual research, there are research which is done as part of a project. You apply for funding to a project because you want to know a research problem. And there are commissioned research also. Commissioned means any institute, any government body will decide they would work. Suppose ICM, or Indian Council of Medical Research, or its branch in Bhubaneswar, RMRC, uh, Regional Council of Medical Research, they have a mandate that they will study on this disease, suppose filaria, malaria, or tuberculosis. So government gives directly money to them to study, to find out results, so that that would directly go to health policy. But individual results may or may not have that aspect. Then comes the second component. The second unit is about theory and hypothesis, drawing hypothesis. So there are different kinds of research, and most of the research in social sciences should follow a scientific method. It is not that you can select a topic, do whatever you want. No. When you do an academic research for a degree, or any kind of research being funded by others, because there are independent individual researchers, for their inquisitiveness, they write a book, they do research, they may or may not follow a method. But if you are in doing an academic research, you have to follow a scientific method, a method that is standardized at the national level or international level. Suppose if I want to work on health, whether people are healthy or not, I have to go through the international standard. Suppose BMI, body mass index, is something to say that whether people are healthy, people are obese, or they have good body physique. BMI is a standard that is given by World Health Organization, or WHO, at the national level by ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research. I cannot devise a method of my own. I have to follow those what others are following, because that is a standard by which people have been doing, that is time tested, that is been measured and being third party reviewed methods. So we have to follow a scientific method in doing research. And a theory is something, theory is a grand statement that is based on certain facts. And those facts have been proved by doing repetitive research on certain things. For example, let me give you one example. Suppose evolutionary theory that we discuss in anthropology, both biological evolution and social evolution. So there are many people who have talked about how societies, or people, people as biological being, have evolved. Whether we were same 100 years back, 1,000 years back, 10,000 years, 1 lakh, 50 lakhs, 150 lakhs, 1 million years ago, whether we were same as we are today, or how our societies or different institutions, like suppose marriage, whether marriage has gone through changes. So if that is the question, then evolutionary model gives a better answer to us to understand the change, the transitions that has taken place. If it is a biological evolution, evolution of body physics, or man as an animal, then we have Lamarck's theory of evolution. We have Darwin's most accepted theory of evolution that says there was overproduction, then there is competition, then there's a development of traits, then naturally selection through competition, survival of the fittest, and those who are the fittest because of specific trait, they survive. So that is how human societies have evolved, and biologically, man as animal has evolved from simpler form to complex. So what is this? This is a theory. This is a theory. It explains the social phenomena of change. Similarly, this biological idea of evolution, the biological process of evolution, has been adopted by social scientists or social anthropologists. They say similarly, like man as an animal has changed, man's society or his behavior or his experiences or his cultural attributes have also changed. And man's subsistence has also taken a linear way of evolving from simpler to complex form. Like from hunting gathering, they become pastoral. From pastoral, they become agriculturist. Agriculture, they become industrial. Industrial, they become going to service sector kind of industry. So this is just a framework. So theory is like a framework. It is a based on data that that framework explains certain social phenomena, the phenomena of change, whether it is biological or social. So evolutionary theory is a model. Similarly, diffusion is a model, structuralism is a model, functionalism is a model. Similarly, in every discipline, there are some certain theories. So when you design a research problem, you have to find out in that particular problem what are the theories, grand theory. Sorry, what are the grand theories or frameworks available to explain the issue? Suppose in education or migration, as I discussed, in migration, there are theories of demographic transition, which says transition takes place in every society. People are forced to go out as part of the dynamics of fertility or birth or mortality or death. In simple societies, more fertility, more mortality, more birth, more death. Then, because of socioeconomic development, because of health infrastructure and other things, this dynamic changes. And in the one, three, one, two, three, four, the fourth state, low fertility and low mortality. People do not produce. When they do not produce, they do not produce when they have high education, high income, they know the quality of life, industrial, they have major production. So that happens in developed countries in the fourth. But two and three, overproduction, population boom. So there is less food supply, less luxury compared to number of people. Like overproduction, and there is population boom. In this kind of society, those who are in stage 2 and 3, people migrate out of this place because there is a strain in food. So this is a theory. Demographic transition is a theory that explains why people migrate. So what I'm trying to emphasize is that when you design a research problem to study, then you have to also look into what are the theories and conceptual models or frameworks available so that you can imbibe or you can follow in your study, and based on that you can develop hypotheses or assumptions that you will go and test in the field. Then comes the variables. in your study, variable becomes very important. So there are, in a lucid sense, I would explain what variable mean. There is dependent variable, that is independent variable. Yeah, sorry. Before going to variable, let us also little discuss about your hypothesis and hypothesis testing. As I was giving the example of hypothesis, like the cigarette smoking or tea or coffee taking by hostelers and day scholars. So in that, in your book also, there is a little bit explanation. You can have experimental groups, you have control group, then you have manipulation. So all these things you can take in a quantitative term and calculate it to say that whether your assumption is correct or not. And in your research design, uh, you have independent and dependent variable. Dependent variable and independent, let me explain in a simpler way. Suppose in a school there are teachers and there are students. If teachers become independent variable and students become, suppose, dependent variable, and between them, if students perform well, then the teacher has to give good marks to them. If the teacher will write good or very good after he has evaluated that. So it depends if the teacher, uh, and depending on, or let me give another example that would be little easier to. Suppose we say that poverty poverty leads to bad health, then poverty becomes independent variable, health becomes dependent variable. Because poverty is something that is dynamic, that may change. And good health is something that will also depend on poverty. If you, from poverty, suppose your income is 10,000, and if your income becomes 20,000, if you modulate it 10 to 20,000, then your expenditure on health can also improve. So, this independent variable, poverty, can have differential impact on people's life. Those who are poverty stricken will have bad health. Those who are not poverty stricken have good income will have good health. So, this kind of variable setting can also be incorporated in your study. And next is your research design. So, how do you design a research before you conduct it? So, there are different types of research design. One is, we discussed some in the previous classes. One is exploratory research design, when you want to explore certain things. So, we'll discuss one by one. Exploratory research design, then there is a descriptive or diagnostic research design. Third is experimental research design, then quasi-experimental research design, then cross-sectional research design, then longitudinal research design, then case study design, and comparative research design. So there are 8 types of research that people engaged in. So in exploratory research design, uh, which is when there is not much data available on a specific research question, you go to explore. You become the initial group of people or individual or researcher to do that. So you go to explore certain things where primary information about that topic is not available, you go for that kind of research design. And then there is descriptive or diagnostic research design. Descriptive research studies are those studies which are interested in explaining the features of a particular individual. For example, in anthropological sense, if somebody is trying to understand the ecology of Similpal area, so then in description, you would try to explain, suppose food production or impact of supernatural power on people. So you go on describing every details in food production. What is the source? What you would suppose one economist will go and try to study a village. So how they would do? They would ask for what is the income, what is the source of income, and what is the expenditure, what are the uh, way you spend your money. So there are three or five major source of income. There are three or five channels where you spend your money. But in anthropological sense, if it is about uh, subsistence of income or food production, they would go for descriptive study approach to study what are the different source, primary, secondary, tertiary source of income. Suppose forest becomes primary source, secondary source become labor like agricultural labor or industrial labor, third is become occasional industrial worker. So they would classify it, and in every aspect they would give a detailed thick description based on narratives of the people. So this kind of study is required when lot of literature is not available, and this kind of descriptive research requires uh, longer stay with the community, deeper understanding, people's understanding, interaction between each other, and then diversification of food production, all these things. But the strength of it is gives a detailed overview of the situation. But the challenges or negative aspect of the studies, it is very, very time consuming, and especially for policy framework point of view, this is not suitable because it takes very, very long time. But this is one of the traditional method of doing it, and anthropologists engaged in this. Then comes experimental research design. Experimental research design is a kind of research where you do, suppose, intervention oriented research. It's experimental. You have a control group, and then you have a group that you want to observe. So you it's a inter comparison study where you have a control group that how many people suppose are addicted, and how many people are normal, they don't addict, they don't consume, and then you compare in a population, you define some normal population, and then you take to find out what is the impact of XYZ on them. So that becomes the experimental research design. Experimental research design is done especially in science and in social sciences if you want to see the impact of certain things, especially on implemented research projects. This kind of study is done. Suppose if you have to see what is the impact of ICDS program or Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. ICDS means for Anganwadi kind of thing. Anganwadi program on quality of life on people. So what you will do, you will take an area or a panchayat where two villages where Anganwadi work is not going, and two villages where Anganwadi is going. Or in the same village, some people who are regular to Anganwadi center and those who are not regular. Then you take 50 from those who are going to Anganwadi, 50 those who are not regularly going. So you compare them. And then finally you will say that, okay, those who are going, their quality of life is better, their health is better, their educational standard has improved, uh, so and so has become worst or bad, good. So that you have to say. So that becomes an experimental study design. So you have pre-study, during study, after study. So these evaluations are done. Then there are also quasi-experimental design, where it is not purely experimental in every aspect, but certain aspects are into comparative method, certain aspects study in the setup. Then you have cross-sectional research design. Cross-sectional is one is a longitudinal, like you do the evaluation at every time interval, but in cross-sectional study, you take samples from different sectors and then compare them. So, to give an example for this cross-sectional research design, suppose if you want to study the growth pattern, the physical growth pattern of adolescents. Adolescent boys means 10 to 19 years of age. So in that, there are normally two methods. One is longitudinal, one is cross-sectional. In a longitudinal, you take the measurement, suppose height and weight of 10 years, then in each interval, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So if you take 100 samples, that 100 sample you take them when they are at age 10, the same individuals you take when they are at 11, when they are at 12, 13. So you have to wait for 9 years to complete the study. So that is longitudinal. And cross-sectional is within 1 month or 1 year, you can take that 100 sample, you take 10 years, those who are studying in class 4, 11, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you complete by taking samples from maybe 10 samples from each class. So that is cross-sectional. You cover the age group, you cover the sample, 100 sample, but they are not same people that you measure them at each age interval. That so that is longitudinal. In cross-sectional, you finish it quickly, but you take the age group is covered, the sample size 100 is covered, but it is done quickly. So cross-sectional studies are for specially designed for helping the policy, and longitudinal studies is for good quality of data. So this is longitudinal and cross-sectional. Then the case study design. Case study design is a kind of study uh, that is taken for unique cases. But what is a case, that is also need to be very clear. A case is something in anthropological sense. One individual can be a case, a family can be a case, a village can be a case, a block can be a case, a state can be a case, a country can be a case, or theme can be a case. How? Suppose I want to study an old lady, Sitabai, for understanding her helplessness or loneliness, how she is facing in her life. By studying Sitabai through case study method, I can tell about what is happening with many old ladies or old people in our area. But my sample size is just one lady. By interviewing her childhood days, her adulthood days, her family making, rearing her children, then getting old, facing a lot of problem, dealing with them. So I take case studies of each of our experience and link it with the larger picture of the area, the state of the country. So this kind of study is also there. But I can also take the family as a case. Suppose I'm studying the village, but I will take only one family as a case. Or I can say that suppose country as a case. Suppose I say impact of COVID-19 on small scale industry. India as a case. That means I'm taking, there are studies about 10 countries from Asia, Africa, Europe, but India is a case. I'm studying in detail Indian situation. So India as a country becomes case. So case can be individual, case can be region also, or a country also. But in anthropological sense, case is something that you study in detail and which is unique. That uniqueness gives a lot of insight into the problem. Suppose Margaret Mead's well-known study, Coming of Age in Samoa, seems to have been motivated by her belief that the country represented a unique case. That means Samoa as a country can be a representative of by this particular study of a village. So then there is comparative research design. So comparative research design is this is also done for cross-cultural research, and this is very unique to anthropology. And anthropologists are for cross-cultural comparative method because you study one society, but you try to compare it with your own or other societies that you have studied. And then comes evaluation of research. Once you have done this, your research program is or research problem is also evaluated. For evaluated means one is need-based assessment, decide who requires the research, how big is the requirement, because your research problem would go for review. With the review, they would also see how much is the relevance of this research, the topic that you have selected, what is its relevance, why it is important. Then evaluability of assessment, whether your study has aspects that can be evaluated both quantitatively and qualitatively. Then structured conceptualization, whether the stakeholders described in the program or technology, the target population and the potential, whether there is a structured way of dividing into different groups, and whether that is implementable, whether reliability of the study it can be implemented elsewhere, and then the process of evaluation, and then outcome of evaluation, then impact evaluation. So all these things are very very important when you design a study, because most of the time you are not doing a research only for your individual requirement. You may be doing it for the state or for the government. So your research should have all these aspects that can be evaluated by a third party. But because nowadays most of the research studies are made for receiving grants from different funding agencies like UGC, DST, DBT, ICSSR, many funding agencies that are giving funding for carrying out research. So, if you design a good research, having a sound research problem, research topic, good objective aims and objectives stated, a very good review of literature that situates your problem both in the other works done by others and finding out the gaps in the field, what others have ignored. Next is your methodology, where you have chosen the right kind of tools and techniques to complete or accomplish the research. Then you also have good tools or instruments to analyze your data, both qualitative and quantitative data, and then citing or writing the facts or the uh, findings or results from your data. So that is what is very, very important. So in doing so, for doing so, you need to have a clear-cut picture of what exactly you want to do. So So I think this class would help you to visualize what a research problem is. In order to carry out a research, you should have better focus on asking a good question, a relevant question, meaningful question, which has societal importance, and then good objective setting and doing an excellent review of literature taken from different sources, as we discussed, in the form of reports or journals, from which you take this as important items, and then which are relevant and trendy at the same time are also contemporaneous. So they are contemporary, that is why they are important. So I think this is what is important. I hope when you decide to uh, uh, decide to write your dissertation, choose a topic for research. So this kind of things what we discuss in brief would help you in designing a good research proposal. I think I would like to stop here. If you have a specific question, I'd look forward to address or try to answer. Otherwise, we call it a day now. Thank you. Do you have any questions, queries? Okay, if you do not have, thank you very much. I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.